My mother locked the doors twice every night, curtains drawn, no photographs allowed. Some people should be forgotten, she'd whisper, fear flickering in her eyes. I thought she was paranoid until after her funeral when I found torn photos in the attic. My mother's face had been cut out, leaving only a stranger's hand, a tattoo on the wrist. That's when I realized she wasn't running. She was hiding. My name is Jasmine Davis. I'm 42 and a defense attorney. Maybe my career choice wasn't coincidental. I've always wanted to pursue justice, to protect people, just like my mother, Elaine, wanted to protect me. My mother died 3 months ago from a sudden heart attack. She had no health issues. The doctor said sometimes stress accumulates in the body for years. My mother was indeed always anxious, always alert. Our childhood was different from other children's. My mother never allowed my brother Marcus and me to have school photos taken. Our family albums were empty. The windows of our house were always covered with thick curtains. We didn't receive visitors. And a packed suitcase always stood ready by the back door. Marcus rebelled against this. In his teens, he would yell, "Why can't we have a normal family?" But I complied with my mother's rules. I could see the fear in her eyes. Even without knowing the reason, I could feel that this fear was real. My mother was suspicious of phones. Wrong numbers would make her anxious for days. She constantly looked over her shoulder while walking down the street. And every evening, when she told us, "I love you," she said it in a tone as if it might be the last time. 2 weeks after the funeral, Marcus and I began cleaning out our mother's house. It was a small, modest home. My mother had always lived an inconspicuous life. As we sorted through her belongings, Marcus was angry. Mom never really lived. Always in this fear, no, why was she like this? While he cleaned her bedroom, I went up to the attic. The attic was dark and dusty. In the corner, I saw an old trunk. Inside were clothes I'd never seen my mother wear. Colorful, bold outfits from the 70s. My mother always wore dark, understated clothes. These colorful garments seemed to belong to someone else. Under the trunk, I found a box. It had the initials MB written on it. When I opened it, I discovered torn photographs, cut-out newspaper articles, and a small locked diary. I looked at the photographs. All were torn or cut through the middle. In one, there was a group of young women holding banners at a protest. It was clear someone had been in the center, but the photo was cut right there. At the edge, a dark-skinned hand was visible with a small sun tattoo on the wrist. In another photo, a young black man stood smiling with his arm extended toward a cutout space as if he'd been embracing someone who was no longer there. One of the newspaper clippings caught my attention. Headline, "Police Brutality Alleged at Civil Rights Demonstration, Atlanta, 1973. Another clipping, "Activist Woman Missing, Maya Bennett Not Found for a Month, 1974. I stared at the face of the black woman in the photo. The face seemed very familiar, almost like my mother, but younger, more vibrant, with courage rather than fear in her eyes. As I struggled to open the locked diary, Marcus came up to the attic. His face changed when he saw the box in my hands. "What did you find?" he asked, his voice suddenly tense. "I'm not sure, I think it's from our mother's youth. It mentions a woman here, Maya Bennett. Does that sound familiar?" Marcus looked into the trunk, then turned to me. "I don't know if you should be seeing this, Jazz. If Mom hid her past, there was a reason." "What are you talking about, Marcus?" "You know something." Marcus took a deep breath. "A few years ago, Mom was very sick. Her fever was high and she was delirious. She kept saying, 'They'll find Maya. I need to protect Maya.' Then she looked at me and said, 'Marcus, my real name isn't Elaine. I looked at Marcus in shock. What did you say? The next day, when she recovered, she didn't remember any of it. I never brought it up because she looked so terrified. I looked at the locked diary. We need to open this. Marcus hesitated but then nodded. We broke the lock and opened the diary. The first page stunned me. The heading read, Maya Bennett's diary in 1973. The first few pages described an enthusiastic young woman working for the civil rights movement. Maya participated in protests for black rights in Atlanta, spoke at church meetings, and even worked as a photographer for a civil rights magazine. As the pages progressed, the tone changed. June 18th, 1973. Today I witnessed something terrible at the Gordon Park demonstration. As police attacked protesters, one officer, badge number 47, brutally beat a young man. I took photos. Richard says we should publish them. But I'm afraid. June 23rd, 1973. I gave the photos to the newspaper. The editor said he would investigate. Richard is excited, saying justice will finally come. But I saw that officer again today, Carlton. He looked at me. I think he recognized me. June 30th, 1973. Last night, a car followed me home. Carlton's car. He rolled down his window and just said, "It would have been better not to see certain things, wouldn't it, Maya? I'm scared." July 15th, 1973. The newspaper won't run the story. The editor said, insufficient evidence. My photos have disappeared. Richard is furious. They can't silence us, he says. The last few pages were even more disturbing. Maya's home had been broken into. Richard's car had been sabotaged. And then, August 14th, 1973, Richard is dead. They're calling it a car accident. But Richard's car was sabotaged. I know it. This wasn't an accident. It was Carlton. Now it's my turn and my baby. God, I'm pregnant and no one knows. I have to leave. A new name, a new life. The last page was torn out, and the following pages were blank. As I examined the rest of the letters and photographs, Maya's, my mother's, story became clearer. She had been a civil rights activist who witnessed police brutality and documented it. But when she shared the evidence, she became a target. And the most terrifying thing, Carlton was still alive. Living in Atlanta as a retired police chief, I found Richard's last name in the diary, Richard Thompson. Researching online, I found a Richard Thompson who died in a car accident in 1973 in Atlanta. But what surprised me more was discovering another Richard Thompson mentioned in the diary who still lived in Atlanta. Marcus begged me not to go. Look, Mom kept this secret from us for a reason. We shouldn't put ourselves in danger, but as a lead defense attorney, I couldn't give up seeking justice. I flew to Atlanta and found Richard Thompson, a 72-year-old retired teacher. When I visited him, I saw my mother's fear in his eyes as he cracked open the door. "I'm Maya's daughter," I said. "My mother died 3 months ago. I need to know the truth." Richard initially didn't want to let me in, but when I showed him the photo of my mother and Maya, he let me in with trembling hands. As he served me tea in his living room, his hands shook. I knew Maya had a daughter, but I couldn't find you. Maya covered her tracks very well. "What happened in 1973?" I asked. "Why did my mother have to run away?" Richard took a deep breath. "We were young people working for civil rights. Maya was a photographer, very talented. One day at a protest, she photographed a police officer, Carlton, using disproportionate force against protesters. He had caused a young man's death. We gave the evidence to newspapers, but none of them published it. Carlton was someone with very powerful connections. Then the threats began. First phone calls, then being followed. Maya's house was broken into. My car was sabotaged. I had an accident, but miraculously survived. Everyone thought I was dead, and that was safer for me. And my mother? I mean Maya. Maya was pregnant, Richard said slowly. Pregnant with you. And she was terrified. I helped her leave, change her identity. I had trusted people in New Orleans. They arranged new identity documents for her. And Maya Bennett died. Elaine Davis was born. My mother was a black activist, but I started stammering, confused. Richard smiled gently. Maya was an activist, yes, but she was a white woman. She was a child of a mixed relationship. Her skin was light, but she grew up in the civil rights movement. For her, it wasn't about race, it was about justice. And my father? I asked. Richard's eyes darkened. Maya never told me, and I never asked. That time, it was a complicated time. And Carlton? Is he still... Yes, said Richard, his voice hardening. He's now a respected retired police chief. Justice never came. As I was leaving, Richard stopped me at the door. Jasmine, be careful. Carlton may be old, but he has dangerous connections. Maya sacrificed everything to protect you. If you expose this story, you may face the same dangers. When I returned from Atlanta, I began a deeper search in my mother's house. I was looking for clues to the years after Maya's diary. Marcus was concerned because of Richard's warning. Maybe we should leave this alone, Jas. If Mom hid this from us, there was a reason. But this is our chance to understand who our mother really was, Marcus, I said. Now I understand why she always lived in such fear. She wasn't just paranoid. She was actually in danger. I noticed a loose panel in the wall of my mother's bedroom. Behind it was a small safe. Guessing the combination was difficult, but there was a date my mother used for everything. Her wedding anniversary. When I tried it, the safe opened. Inside were more documents. Fake IDs, used before and after Elaine Davis, and another thin diary. This one contained my mother's thoughts from recent years, a page from the 1990s. Today, Jasmine started school. She wanted to have her school photo taken. I had to say no. Seeing the disappointment in her eyes broke my heart. But her safety is more important than anything. Carlton is still out there somewhere, and he never forgets. A page from 1998. Marcus ran away from home today. He asked me why I couldn't be a normal mother. I can't tell him the truth. Not yet. Maybe never. But perhaps someday he'll understand. A page from 2010. I saw Carlton on the internet today. He's retired from the Atlanta Police Department. They held a grand ceremony, praised his heroism. Something died inside me. There's no such thing as justice. And the most recent, written just a month before her death, Jasmine is now a lawyer. Fighting for justice. My daughter is doing what Maya couldn't. But sometimes I'm afraid. What if my past catches up to her? What if Carlton discovers Maya had a daughter? Some days I want to tell her everything. Other days I think it's safer if this secret dies with me. Maybe not knowing the truth is better for her. Tears streamed down my face as I closed the diary. My mother had lived her entire life in fear, and this fear was never unfounded. When I returned home, I sensed something was wrong. The door was locked, everything was in place, but as my mother always said, danger has a smell. My books in the living room had been disturbed. My computer was open. I had closed it, and on the kitchen table stood a cup I hadn't placed there. Someone had been in my home. I stayed at Marcus's house that night. The next day when I went to my office, my secretary greeted me. Mr. Carlton was looking for you. He said it was urgent. My blood froze. Carlton? What exactly did he say? He introduced himself as Chief Carlton. Said he was calling from Atlanta. He mentioned finding some items related to your mother and wanting to give them to you. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone. I looked at the caller ID, a number from Atlanta. As I held the phone, it started ringing again, the same number. I didn't answer. When I returned to Marcus that evening, I told him everything. Carlton is finding me, Marcus. What our mother feared is real. We should go to the police, said Marcus. And what would we say? Hello. We suspect a retired police chief did something 50 years ago. Who would believe us? So, what do we do? I pulled out my mother's diaries and the photos Richard had given me. I need to prove what Carlton did. Mom and Richard couldn't find justice. Maybe I can. That night, staying at Marcus's house, I felt exactly why my mother had been so afraid. Every creak, every car sound woke me up. When my phone rang at 2 a.m., the caller ID was blocked. I answered with hesitation. Jasmine Davis? Said a male voice. Yes? This is Richard Thompson. Your phone might be tapped, so I can't talk long. Maya. Your mother had real evidence. She didn't tell anyone, not even me, but I know she hid it somewhere. If you want to protect your mother, find that evidence. The call ended. In the morning, I returned to my mother's house. I thought about Richard's words, evidence my mother had hidden somewhere. Where could it be? I had already searched every corner of the house, and then I realized my mother never let us be photographed, but she had said she hated photos, not that she was afraid of them. What if that wasn't fear but a clue? I checked the empty photo albums again. There was nothing between the pages, but when I examined the album itself, I noticed the back cover was slightly thick. When I carefully opened it, a USB drive fell out. When I plugged it into my computer, what I saw shocked me. The photos my mother, Maya, had taken in 1973. Carlton's face was clearly visible, beating a young protester, and more. Carlton's conversations with other officers, plans to cover up evidence, even the sabotage of Richard's car. Maya had documented it all, and she had never published it to protect us. As I was pondering what to do with this evidence, I received a call from my office. There's someone waiting for you at reception, Mr. Carlton. He says he doesn't have an appointment but insists. Carlton was here. He had come all the way from Atlanta. I called Marcus. Carlton is here at my office. Get out of there now, said Marcus. No, I said. This has to end. We've always run. Mom spent her whole life running. I won't run. I put the USB drive in my pocket, took a deep breath, and went down to reception. Carlton was a man in his 70s with sharp eyes. When he saw me, he smiled slightly. Ah, Jasmine Davis, Maya's daughter. We finally meet. Come to my office, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We stood silently in the elevator. When we entered my office, I left the door open. I needed witnesses. What do you want, Mr. Carlton? I asked directly. I found some old items related to your mother. I was an old friend of hers. I wanted to give these to you. A friend of Maya Bennett? Carlton's eyes widened slightly, then he composed himself. Ah, so you learned from your mother. Yes, I knew her as Maya, a long time ago. My mother never told you anything. You never knew her. You only threatened her, scared her, killed her friend. Carlton smiled. Those are very serious accusations, Miss Davis, and without evidence. Maya, your mother, was always a dramatic woman. She had a vivid imagination. Without evidence? I opened my computer and plugged in the USB drive. I opened Maya's photos. Is this without evidence? Carlton's face hardened. These are manipulated images from years ago. Maya worked with a radical group. They would do anything to discredit the police. What about these? I opened the audio recordings. Carlton's voice was heard. That photographer girl is causing problems. She needs to be dealt with. Plans for Richard's car are ready. Carlton stood up. Where did you find these? My mother never published them. To protect us. But I will publish them, Mr. Carlton. The statute of limitations may have expired, but the public should know you. I will find true justice. Be careful, Jasmine, said Carlton, his voice full of threat. Your mother made her choice. She stayed silent and lived. You can do the same. Or I can tell the truth, I said. And I can do what my mother never could. Carlton paused at the door as he was leaving. Maya never understood me. Everything I did for order. Sometimes order requires bending the rules. Those who can't understand that take risks. Is that a threat? Carlton smiled. Just a lesson from history, Miss Davis. Good day. After he left, I began to tremble. Now I fully understood why my mother had been so afraid. But at the same time, I knew I had the power to do what she never could. The next day, I obtained security camera footage showing Carlton visiting my office. That same day, I sent the file containing all my mother's, Maya's, evidence to a journalist friend. I also sent copies to several major newspapers and human rights lawyers. A week later, the news broke in national media. Police brutality case from the 1970s reopened. No criminal investigation could be opened against Carlton. The statute of limitations had long expired. But under public pressure, all his honorary titles were revoked, and many activist cases where he had been involved were reopened for review. Marcus and I were sitting in our mother's, Maya's, house. We were looking at the photographs, now uncut, complete photographs. Digital copies had been stored on the USB drive for years. Mom was so brave, said Marcus, and I never understood her. She was always trying to protect you, I said. She sacrificed everything to protect all of us. What happens now? Asked Marcus. I'll tell our mother's story, I said. Maya Bennett's story and the story of many others who were silenced like her. Justice has finally come, even if delayed. That night when I returned home, I found myself checking the doors twice. I closed the curtains tightly. When my phone rang, I carefully checked the caller ID. My mother locked the doors to keep danger out. I locked them to keep her memory safe. And I completely understood the sacrifices my mother, my survivor, hero, mother, had made. She wasn't just a victim. She was a hero who did everything to survive and protect her children. Today, I have a new photo album in my home. It contains photos from my mother's, Maya's, youth, memories from Marcus's and my childhood, and images from today. We're no longer hiding. I've made my mother's, Maya's, story the subject of films and books. She finally found her voice, and I honor her legacy every day, the struggle for justice and survival. Some days I still look over my shoulder. Some nights I still check the doors twice. My mother's fears were passed down to me, but so was her courage. Before you judge your mother's strange behaviors, think. Perhaps she too has a story she couldn't tell. And perhaps one day you will find the strength to understand and complete that story. My name is Ruby, and I want to thank Jasmine for trusting us with this powerful story. What would you do if you discovered your parent had been living a double life just to protect you? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes what we label as paranoia or overprotection is actually a trauma response, born from stories we were never told. Jasmine's journey reminds us that behind every strange behavior, there may be a history of sacrifice, pain, and survival. If this story touched you, please give it a like and subscribe to Stories of Aunt Ruby for more real-life accounts that make us see people and ourselves a little differently. Until next time, remember, understanding begins where judgment ends. With love and truth, Ruby.